My name is Charlie Rahman, 31 years old. Last Saturday, I attended my brother Ben's wedding. The moment my mother walked into the luxurious reception hall, Victoria's mother loudly pinned a name tag on her chest and announced in front of 200 guests, "Everyone, this is Joyce Rahman, the uneducated tenant living in Ashford Property number 47. We've been kind enough to let her stay for free all these years." The whole room burst into laughter. My mother, the woman who raised 2 children alone after my father died paying for that house, stood there shaking, head down, tears in her eyes. She turned to leave. I grabbed her hand and said clearly, "Mom, we're going home. Right now." What the Ashfords didn't know was that for the past 3 months I had been quietly building a federal fraud case against them. They humiliated my mother on Saturday. By Monday, I was going to take back everything they stole and destroy their entire empire. Before I tell you what happened next, if this story already makes your blood boil, please hit like and subscribe. Only if it earns it. Drop your city and local time in the comments. I want to know who's watching this with me right now. Now let me take you back to that Saturday. To understand how we got here, you need to know about a promise made 22 years ago, April 15th, 2004. I was 9 years old. My father, James Rahman, left for his construction job at 5:30 that morning. I remember because I was already awake, sitting at the kitchen table doing homework I'd forgotten the night before. He poured coffee into his thermos. My mother, Joyce, was packing his lunch. Turkey sandwich, apple, the same thing every day. She was 34 then, still young, her hands not yet worn rough from the years of work that would come later. "5 more years of payments, Joyce," Dad said, kissing her forehead. "Then this house is ours. No more landlords. No more rent. Something real for our kids." Mom smiled. "Don't work too hard, honey. You've been doing double shifts all week." "I'm fine." He knelt down, ruffled my hair, then walked to where my brother Ben was still sleeping on the couch. 12 years old, gangly, Ben had given up his bedroom when I was born. Dad touched his shoulder gently, didn't wake him. "I'll bring pizza for dinner," Dad said. He picked up his lunchbox. Steel-toed boots by the door, worn but clean. The mortgage statement was on the fridge, held by a magnet shaped like Massachusetts. $185,000 purchase price. $74,000 remaining. We were 60% there. He never came home. At the hospital, the doctor's words still echo in my ears like a bad dream. We did everything we could. Mom collapsed against the cold tile wall, her sobs echoing down the sterile hallway. I was only 9, clutching Ben's hand so tightly that my nails left marks on his skin. The Union brothers stayed with us for hours, their steel-toed boots leaving dirt on the hospital floor. For weeks afterward, our tiny house in Dorchester was filled with aluminum trays of lasagna and tuna casserole from the church ladies at St. Augustine's. Some nights I would wake up to the sound of Mom crying in the bathroom with the water running so we wouldn't hear her. Ben started sleeping on the couch again, giving me the only bedroom. At 12 years old, he was already trying to be the man of the house. That house on Lexington Street stopped being just a building. It became Dad's last promise, the one we had to protect no matter what. At 2:15 p.m., the school secretary pulled me out of class. My mother was already there, face white, hands shaking. The hospital had called. Brain hemorrhage, massive. He'd collapsed on the construction site at 11:47 a.m., dead on arrival. I didn't understand what cerebral hemorrhage meant. I kept asking when we could see him. Mom just held me and cried. At the funeral, my father's Union brothers formed an honor guard. They'd worked with him for 8 years. One of them, an older man named Tommy, told my mother, "James was the best of us. Worked harder than anyone. Always talking about that house. About you kids." The day after the funeral, an envelope came from the mortgage company. Payment due in 30 days. $1,247. Mom stared at that number for a long time. "We'll figure it out," she said. She figured it out by working 3 jobs: full-time housekeeping at the Marriott downtown, evening shifts at CVS, weekend catering gigs. She left the house at 6 in the morning and came home at 11 at night. Ben learned to cook mac and cheese. I did my homework in the Marriott break room while Mom vacuumed conference rooms. The mortgage statement stayed on the fridge, payment amount highlighted in red every month, $1,247. We paid it. Every single month. By the time I turned 13, I could cook Mom's rice and lentils perfectly while standing on a kitchen stool. Ben worked weekends at the auto body shop down the street, coming home with grease-stained hands and quietly slipping his $20 paycheck into Mom's purse. Winters were brutal. We kept the thermostat at 62 degrees to save money, wearing sweaters and socks inside the house. When the city increased property taxes in 2012, Mom took on a 4th job sewing alterations for neighbors until midnight, her fingers swollen and cracked by morning. She kept every single receipt in that worn folder labeled House, Dad's Dream, treating it like a sacred record. The framed, "Paid in full" letter hung above the kitchen table like a medal of honor. That version of my mother, the quiet, unbreakable woman who buried her husband and still kept his dream alive with calloused hands and relentless will, was the one the Ashfords would never understand. Mom kept the receipts in a folder labeled House, Dad's Dream. By 2007, we'd paid off 60% of what remained. That March, Mom made the final payment. The bank sent a letter, paid in full. She had it framed, hung it above the kitchen table. "Your father would be proud," she told us. For 6 months, we believed it. We believed the house at 127 Lexington Street, Dorchester, was ours. Then September 2008 happened, and we lost it all. The financial crisis hit everyone, but it hit working families harder. Ben had just been accepted to community college. He needed $18,000 for 2 years of tuition. Mom had $3,200 saved. That's when Gerald Ashford made his offer. Mom had met him at church, St. Augustine's in Dorchester. He was friendly, well-dressed, drove a nice car. He'd helped other families in the parish with financial guidance. When Mom mentioned Ben's college acceptance, Gerald pulled her aside after Mass. "Joyce, congratulations. That's wonderful. Have you thought about how you'll cover tuition?" "I'm working on it," Mom said. "You have equity in your home, don't you? The house is worth maybe $180,000. You own it free and clear. I can help you access that equity. Take out maybe $20,000 for Ben's education." Mom looked uncertain. "I don't understand. We just finished paying—" "It's called a cash-out refinance. Very common. You refinance the mortgage at the current value. Take the difference in cash. My company handles these all the time." He handed her a business card. "Ashford Development LLC. Building Boston's future." "I'll even waive the fees for you," Gerald added, as a friend. A week later, Gerald came to our house. He spread papers across the kitchen table, 27 pages, dense legal text. Mom had immigrated from Bangladesh at 19, married my father at 20. Her English was fluent for daily life, but legal jargon was a foreign language. "This just says you understand the terms," Gerald said, pointing. "This confirms the property address, and this final one authorizes the transfer. The loan disbursement." "Transfer?" Mom asked. "Transfer of funds. The $20,000 going into your account. Standard language." She signed. Her signature was shaky, uncertain. The notary, a woman named Jennifer Callahan, stamped the documents. Later, I'd learned Jennifer was Gerald's employee. The notary was fake. Gerald handed over a check for $20,000. "Thank you," Mom said. "This means everything for Ben." "Happy to help," Gerald said. On page 19 of those 27 pages, buried in a section titled Property Rights Agreement, was a clause that changed everything. Grantor agrees to life estate arrangement whereby ownership of property located at 127 Lexington Street transfers to Ashford Holdings Trust number 47, with grantor retaining occupancy rights until death. My mother had just signed away her house. She didn't know it. Gerald never explained it. He called it a refinance. It was a theft. The money went to Ben's tuition. He graduated 2 years later with an associate degree in business. By then, the house was long gone. For the next 18 years, Mom lived at 127 Lexington Street, believing it was hers. She paid property taxes every year. $4,200, total of $76,400 over 18 years. She paid for a new roof in 2015. $8,000. New furnace in 2019. $5,500. She maintained that house like it was her own, because she thought it was. The property tax bills came addressed to Joyce Rahman, Life Estate Beneficiary, Ashford Holdings Trust number 47. She thought Life Estate Beneficiary meant homeowner under refinance program. I was a teenager then. I asked her once why the bill said Ashford Holdings Trust. "I don't know, honey," she said. "Maybe it's how they process it after the refinance. The county probably has old records." "Want me to call and check?" No, don't bother them. As long as it's paid, it's fine. In 2020, the City of Boston announced rezoning for Dorchester, the Transit-Oriented Development Initiative. Properties near the new Red Line extension spiked in value. Our neighborhood, once working class and overlooked, suddenly became prime real estate. 127 Lexington Street went from $180,000 to $680,000 in 5 years. Gerald Ashford watched his investment multiply. That same year, 2020, my brother Ben started dating a woman named Victoria. He didn't mention her last name for 6 months. When he finally did, Mom said, "Ashford? Like Mr. Ashford from church?" "Yeah," Ben said. "Small world, right?" Mom smiled. What a small world. She had no idea how small. She had no idea that Victoria's father was the man who'd stolen her house 12 years earlier. She had no idea that the family Ben was joining was the family that owned the deed to the home she thought was hers. And Ben? He had no idea either. Not yet. I became a paralegal because of my mother. After Dad died, I watched her struggle with documents she couldn't understand. Insurance forms, probate paperwork, school financial aid applications. She'd sit at the kitchen table reading the same paragraph over and over, trying to make sense of legal language that seemed designed to confuse. "I wish I understood this," she'd say. I decided I'd be the person who understood it. For her. For people like her. I studied political science at UMass Boston on a full scholarship, then got my paralegal certification. In 2020, at 25, I joined the Legal Aid Society of Greater Boston. I worked housing cases, tenant-landlord disputes, predatory lending, deed fraud. I'd seen dozens of scams by the time I was 30. I'd helped families fight foreclosures, evictions, title theft. I never imagined my own mother was a victim. December 12, 2025. Mom called me from work. "Charlie, honey, can you help me with something? I want to apply for a reverse mortgage. The roof is sagging again, and the plumbing's old. I need about $25,000 for repairs." "A reverse mortgage?" I said. "Mom, are you sure? Those can be—" I know, but I'm 56. The house is paid off. I've been reading about it. I just need help with the application." "Okay, I'll need to pull your title records first. It's standard for the application." That evening, I logged into the Suffolk County Registry of Deeds database, typed in 127 Lexington Street, Dorchester. The screen loaded. Property owner, Ashford Holdings Trust number 47. I stared at the words. Recorded date: September 23, 2008. Document type: Life estate deed in lieu of foreclosure refinancing. I clicked through the scanned documents. Found the deed. Found my mother's signature. Then I saw it. Page 19. The transfer clause. Oh my God, I whispered. I called Mom. When did you refinance the house? 2008, for Ben's college. Why? Who did you refinance with? Mr. Ashford, Gerald Ashford, from church. He helped us. My hands were shaking. Mom, this isn't a mortgage. This is a deed transfer. Silence on the line. What does that mean? She asked. It means... Mom, can you find the original paperwork from 2008? Everything Gerald gave you? She went to the basement, came back with a cardboard box labeled Important Papers, 2008. I drove to Dorchester, sat at that same kitchen table where she'd signed those papers 17 years earlier. I read every page. The fraudulent promissory note. The fake truth in lending disclosure. The deed transfer buried on page 19. Jennifer Callahan's notary stamp. A woman who worked for Gerald's company, not an independent notary. Mom, I said carefully, this document says you transferred ownership of the house to Ashford Holdings Trust. You have a life estate. You can live here until you die, but you don't own it. Someone else owns it. Her face went pale. But I've been paying property taxes. Exactly. You've been maintaining someone else's property for 17 years. How much? She couldn't finish the sentence. I pulled up Zillow on my phone. How much do you think this house is worth? Maybe $250,000? The estimate loaded. $748,000. She went white. Charlie, she whispered. Did I lose my house? I looked at her. At the woman who'd worked 3 jobs to keep a roof over our heads. At the mortgage payment receipt framed above her head. Paid in full. Now a mockery. Not if I can help it, I said. I went home that night and didn't sleep. I kept seeing my mother's signature on that deed. Trusting, hopeful. The next morning, I started digging. I spent January building the case. Legal Aid has access to public records databases. I pulled every property filing for Ashford Holdings Trust. Found 16 properties, not one, 16. All recorded between 2007 and 2010. All life estate deeds. All in neighborhoods with high immigrant populations. Dorchester, Roxbury, Mattapan, East Boston. I cross-referenced the addresses with voter registration, census data, mortgage records. Found a pattern. All elderly homeowners. All over 55 when they signed. All primary language not English, Spanish, Vietnamese, Haitian Creole, Portuguese, Bengali, like my mother. None of them knew they'd lost their homes. I started making calls. Mrs. Torres, my name is Charlie Rahman. I'm a paralegal at Legal Aid. I believe you may have been the victim of deed fraud involving Ashford Development. The first woman hung up. The second was suspicious. The third started crying. I thought it was a loan, she said. Mr. Ashford said he was helping me. By the end of January, I'd found 12 other families. 9 were willing to talk. 6 were willing to fight. I spent dozens of evenings sitting at kitchen tables just like ours, in Roxbury, Mattapan, East Boston, and Hyde Park. Mrs. Torres, a 68-year-old Puerto Rican widow, cried as she showed me the exact same 27-page packet Gerald had given her. Mr. Nguyen, a Vietnamese grandfather, kept apologizing in broken English for losing the family home. A Haitian grandmother proudly showed me the new driveway she had paid for in 2014, believing she was improving her property. Every single story followed the same heartbreaking pattern. Gerald at church, friendly and well-dressed, offering help during the financial crisis, then burying the deed transfer on page 19. I recorded hours of interviews, built detailed spreadsheets tracking forged notary stamps, and calculated every dollar of stolen equity. My supervisor, Maria Sullivan, warned me I was becoming too emotionally involved. I told her this wasn't just another case anymore. This was personal. On February 1st, I called the FBI. The Boston field office routed me to Agent Rebecca Torres, Financial Crimes Unit. "Ms. Rahman," she said, "we've been investigating mortgage fraud rings in Greater Boston for 8 months. Can you tell me about Ashford Development?" I told her everything. The 16 properties, the pattern, the $8.2 million in stolen equity. "We've had Ashford Development under surveillance since June 2025, Agent Torres said. "But we needed victims willing to come forward. Can you bring your documentation to our office?" March 5th, I sat in a conference room in the FBI's Chelsea field office. I brought copies of my mother's deed, a comparative analysis of all 16 properties, financial calculations, timeline. Agent Torres reviewed everything. Then she looked up. "Ms. Rahman, we already have draft warrants. Your mother's case, and the other 12 families you've identified. This is the breakthrough we needed. With your cooperation, we can finalize and execute within 6 weeks. What do you need from me?" "Sworn statements from each victim, detailed accounting of damages, and patience. When we move, it's going to be big. Federal charges, media coverage. Are you and your mother prepared for that?" I thought about the name tag I knew would be waiting for Mom at Ben's wedding. I'd seen the seating chart when Ben showed me the wedding materials. Table 18, back corner, with venue staff. "We're prepared," I said. On April 9th, 3 days before Ben's wedding, I filed paperwork in Suffolk Superior Court. Case number 26-CV-10881. Rahman versus Ashford Development LLC. I didn't file an injunction. I filed a temporary restraining order, TRO, to block the sale of all 16 properties in Ashford Holdings Trust's portfolio. My supervising attorney, Maria Sullivan, looked at me across the desk. "Charlie, filing 3 days before the man's daughter's wedding is aggressive." "He's planning to sell Mom's house the week after," I said. "If I wait, the property transfers and we lose leverage." She nodded. "All right, but be ready, this is going to explode." The judge granted the TRO on Friday, April 11th. Emergency order, effective immediately. All property sales frozen. Process servers delivered copies on Sunday, April 13th, the day after the wedding. But I knew what was coming Saturday night. I knew about the seating chart. I knew about the name tag. And I was ready. I should tell you about Ben and Victoria. They met in January 2020 at a networking event. Ben was 28, working as a marketing coordinator at a tech startup, making $54,000 a year. Victoria was 26, operations director at her father's company, making $120,000. Ben was smitten. "She's amazing, Charlie, smart, driven, and her family, they're so successful." "What's the company called?" I asked. "Ashford Development." I was 25 then, new at legal aid, drowning in case files. The name didn't register. "Small world," I said. By June, they were serious. By December, Ben had met Gerald and Linda. By March 2021, Victoria started hinting about marriage. Ben never mentioned that Gerald had helped our family once. Why would he? He thought it was a legitimate refinance. He had no idea. Not until November 18th, 2023. Ben was invited to Thanksgiving dinner at the Ashford house, early celebration before the actual holiday. Gerald, Linda, Victoria, Ben. Casual conversation over wine and appetizers. Gerald was talking about business. "We're planning a major development push next year. Dorchester's rezoning created opportunities. We own several properties there." "Oh?" Ben said politely. What kind of properties? Small residential. We acquired them years ago, mostly refinance situations during the 2008 crisis. Families needed cash. We helped them access equity. Now those properties are worth 10, 20 times what we paid. That's smart business, Ben said. Gerald smiled. One of them is on Lexington Street, 127 Lexington, actually. Funny coincidence. That's your mom's address, isn't it? Ben's fork stopped halfway to his mouth. What? Oh, didn't your mom tell you? I helped her refinance back in 2008. For your college fund, I believe. Gerald sipped his wine. Technically, the property's in our trust now, but your mom has life estate. She can live there as long as she wants. When we sell, probably next fall, we'll help her find senior housing. Very reasonable rates. Victoria squeezed Ben's hand under the table. Dad, maybe not now. What? Gerald looked genuinely confused. It's good news. The property's worth $850,000 now. We made a smart investment, and Ben's mom had a safe place to live. Win-win. Ben excused himself to the bathroom. Threw up. When he came out, Gerald was showing Victoria and Linda market comparisons on his iPad. They were already planning. Ben said nothing. He drove home. Sat in his car outside our mother's house for an hour. Lights were on. He could see her moving in the kitchen, making dinner for herself. He didn't go in. He didn't call me. He didn't tell Mom. He went home and convinced himself that Gerald was right, that Mom would be better off in senior housing, that the house was too much for her anyway, that this was business, not personal. He wanted to believe it, because believing it meant he could keep Victoria, keep the life he was building. I later learned from one of his former coworkers that Ben had been having nightmares for months. He would wake up in cold sweat muttering, "It's just business," like a mantra. Some nights he drove past our house on Lexington Street and sat in his car for 20 minutes, staring at the warm light in the kitchen where Mom was probably making tea alone. But every time guilt started to win, Victoria would show him photos of luxury condos or remind him about the VP position waiting after the wedding. In the end, the fear of losing the comfortable future he had finally reached won over blood. In March 2024, Victoria proposed. Modern reversal. She got down on one knee at the public garden, presented a ring. Ben said yes. Gerald offered him a VP position, VP of Marketing, $165,000 a year, starting after the wedding. Ben told Mom about the engagement. She cried with happiness. "Your father would be so proud," she said. The wedding was set for April 12, 2026. By then, Ben had known the truth about Mom's house for 2.5 years, and he'd said nothing. March turned to April. The wedding approached. I was finalizing the FBI paperwork. Agent Torres called weekly with updates. The warrants were ready. They were just waiting for my signal. I could have told Ben, could have pulled him aside, explained what I'd found, given him a chance to do the right thing. But I needed to know. I needed to see if my brother would protect our mother, or if he'd already chosen his new family. April 1st, I almost didn't file the TRO. I sat in my apartment with the documents printed, unsigned. I called Maria Sullivan. If I file this, Ben's marriage is over. His job offer is gone. Is it worth destroying my brother's life? Is it worth letting your mother live as a tenant in her own home? Maria asked. I went to Mom's house that evening. She was making dinner. Rice and lentils, the same meal she'd made 1,000 times. Charlie, honey, sit. I made extra. We ate together. She talked about the wedding, about Ben, about how happy she was that he'd found someone. You know what your father used to say? She asked. He said, if you see wrong and do nothing, you become part of the wrong. She didn't know about the TRO. She didn't know what I was planning, but her words made the choice clear. April 9th, 4:47 p.m., I filed the paperwork. The clerk stamped the documents. Will there be media interest in this case? I thought about 16 stolen homes, $8 million, 13 families. Yes, I said. There will be. April 12th, 2026. Wedding day. I helped Mom get ready. She'd bought a dress from Macy's clearance. Navy blue, modest, $78. She did her makeup in the bathroom mirror. The same mirror from 2004, when Dad was still alive. Do I look okay? She asked. I want Ben to be proud. You look beautiful, Mom. She touched the photo of Dad on her dresser. Wish you were here, honey. We drove to the Seaport District. Glass towers, expensive cars, women in designer dresses. Mom looked nervous. Charlie, are you sure I'm dressed okay? I squeezed her hand. Mom, you're perfect. The ceremony was at 2 p.m. Waterfront Chapel. 200 guests. String quartet playing Pachelbel's canon. White orchids everywhere. I'd later learn the floral budget was $15,000. Mom was seated in the third row, not the front. Family seating reserved for immediate family only, the usher explained. I sat with her. Ben and Victoria's vows were beautiful. Traditional, romantic. Ben mentioned building a new future. Victoria thanked my parents for making this day perfect. Neither of them mentioned our mother. Not once. After the ceremony, we filed into the reception venue, Ashford Development Headquarters Ballroom. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Boston Harbor. Crystal chandeliers, ice sculptures, and everywhere. On napkins, programs, champagne glasses, projected on the walls. The Ashford Development logo. The same logo I'd seen on the deed to my mother's house. We approached the registration table. A young woman in an Ashford Development polo shirt smiled. Name, please? Joyce Rahman, mother of the groom. The woman checked her list. Oh, here you are. She reached for a name tag. That's when Linda Ashford appeared. She was 59, tall, elegant in a champagne-colored gown. Old Boston money married to new Boston wealth. She'd been watching the entrance. Joyce, Linda said loudly. Very loudly. Heads turned. She took the name tag from the receptionist's hand, walked over to my mother, and in front of everyone, guests still filing in, photographers snapping pictures, waiters carrying champagne trays, Linda pinned the name tag to my mother's chest. Everyone, Linda announced, her voice carrying across the marble entryway. This is Joyce Rahman, the uneducated tenant living in Ashford Property number 47. We've been kind enough to let her stay for free all these years. Some people laughed. Not everyone. Maybe 40%. Ashford allies, board members, sycophants. Another 30% exchanged uncomfortable looks. 20% whispered, "That's too far." 10% looked disgusted. But the laughter was loud enough. My mother stood there shaking. The name tag read, Joyce Rahman, former household staff tenant, Ashford Property number 47. She looked down at it, then at Ben, standing 20 feet away with Victoria. He'd seen everything. He'd heard Linda's announcement. He looked away. Mom's eyes filled with tears. She turned toward the exit. I grabbed her hand. Mom, I said clearly, loud enough for people nearby to hear. We're going home. Right now. Linda was still smiling. Oh, Joyce, don't be dramatic. It's just a name tag. I looked at her. Really looked at her. Then I looked at Gerald, who'd just joined us, champagne in hand. Mrs. Ashford, I said calmly, my mother has never worked for your family, and she hasn't lived anywhere for free. She's paid $76,400 in property taxes over 18 years. She's paid $41,000 in maintenance. But you already know that, don't you? Linda's smile faltered. I'm sure I don't know what you mean. You will, I said. Come on, Mom. We walked toward the door. Ben intercepted us. Mom, where are you going? We haven't even cut the cake yet. Benjamin, Mom said quietly, I'm tired. I think I'll just head home. But Mom, you can't leave. People will notice. People already noticed, Ben, I said. They noticed when your mother was seated with the catering staff. They noticed when your mother-in-law gave that speech about letting her stay for free. Charlie, Linda was just... He stopped. Couldn't finish. Just what, Ben? Being nice? I pulled the name tag from my purse, the one I'd peeled off Mom's chest. Held it up. Read it, I said. Out loud. Read what your wife's family thinks of our mother. Ben's face went red. Charlie, please. Not here. Then where, Ben? When were you planning to tell Mom that your father-in-law stole our house? Mom's breath caught. Victoria appeared, mortified. Charlie, what are you talking about? Ask your father, I said. Ask him about Ashford Holdings Trust number 47. Ask him about the refinance that wasn't a refinance. Ask him about the 16 families he scammed. Gerald was there now, his smile gone. Young lady, I think you're confused. I'm a paralegal, Mr. Ashford. I specialize in housing fraud. I'm not confused at all. I turned to Ben. Did you know about the house, Ben? He wouldn't meet my eyes. Ben, I said again. Answer me? Did you know? Silence. When? Mom asked, her voice breaking. When did you find out? More silence. November 2023, I said. Gerald told him at Thanksgiving dinner. Isn't that right, Ben? Ben looked at Mom finally. His eyes were wet. Mom, I'm sorry. I wanted to tell you. But Gerald said he'd help you relocate. Senior housing, really nice places. I thought... You thought what? Mom whispered. I thought it would be better for you. Ben's voice rose. The house is too big. The repairs are expensive. This way, you wouldn't have to worry. Better for me? Mom's voice was shaking. Benjamin, that house. Your father died for that house. Dad's been gone for 22 years, Mom. This is about the living. This is about my future. The words hung in the air. I took Mom's arm. Come on, we're leaving. If you leave, Ben said desperately, you're ruining my wedding. I looked at my brother. At the man who'd chosen a job and a wife over his own mother. No, Ben, I said quietly. You ruined it. The day you chose silence. We walked out. Behind us, I heard Victoria asking Ben what was happening. Heard Gerald saying something about misunderstanding. Heard Linda's sharp voice. Let them go. Good riddance. The door closed behind us. We sat in my car in the parking garage. Mom stared straight ahead, the name tag crumpled in her fist. Charlie, she said finally, did I lose my house? I gripped the steering wheel. Not yet, Mom. Not if I can help it. I pulled out my phone, showed her the TRO filing confirmation. On Monday morning, this goes into effect. The court blocks all property sales. Gerald can't sell your house. Can't sell any of the 16 properties he stole. 16? You're not the only one, Mom. There are 12 other families. I found them. We're filing together. Will we win? I looked at her. Yes. How do you know? Because I have the paperwork. I have the forged notary. I have the pattern. I have the FBI. She turned to me sharply. The FBI? They've been investigating Ashford Development since last June. Wire fraud, mail fraud, elder abuse, RICO. Mom, when this goes public on Monday, it's going to be everywhere. Her hands were shaking. And Ben? I was quiet for a moment. Ben made his choice. We drove to Dorchester in silence, pulled up to 127 Lexington Street. The house was dark. The same house where Dad had kissed us goodbye in 2004. The same house Mom had worked 3 jobs to keep. the same house that legally belonged to the man who'd just humiliated her. Inside, Mom sat at the kitchen table, the same table where she'd signed Gerald's papers 18 years earlier. I made tea. The kettle whistled. The clock showed 7:47 p.m. The wedding reception was just serving dinner now. "What happens on Monday?" Mom asked. I spread the papers in front of her. On Monday, the TRO blocks the sales. The FBI executes search warrants. Agent Torres said they'll coordinate timing. Hit Ashford Development Headquarters while the TRO hearing is happening in court. Will they arrest Gerald? Not immediately. They'll seize documents, computers, financial records. The arrest comes later, after they build the full criminal case. But Mom, the civil case, our case, that's separate. We can win that faster. How much faster? Months, maybe a year. But the TRO freezes everything now. He can't sell, can't transfer. The property is locked. Mom looked at the paid in full receipt on the wall. Your father worked double shifts for 10 years to pay off this house. I know, Mom. He never got to see it paid off. He died thinking we still owed money. But you finished it. You made every payment after he died. You kept the promise. She was quiet for a long time. Then, what did your father use to say? About promises? I smiled through tears. He said, "A Rahman keeps their word." Mom nodded. Then let's keep it. My phone buzzed. Ben calling. I declined. It buzzed again. Victoria. Again. Ben. 11 times that night. I didn't answer any of them. Monday, April 15th, 9 a.m. Suffolk Superior Court, downtown Boston. I sat at the plaintiff's table with Maria Sullivan and 6 of the other victims. My mother sat in the gallery, hands folded. Across the aisle, Gerald Ashford, his corporate attorney, and Victoria. Ben wasn't there. The judge, a woman in her 60s named Margaret Brennan, reviewed the TRO application. "Mr. Ashford," she said, "can you explain why 16 properties recorded in your trust's name all follow the same pattern? Life estate deeds, all signed during the 2008 financial crisis, all involving homeowners over 55 with limited English proficiency?" Gerald's lawyer stood. "Your Honor, these were legitimate business transactions. The grantor in each case received fair consideration." How much consideration? Between $15,000 and $25,000 per property. And the current market value of these properties? The lawyer hesitated. Collectively, approximately $8.2 million. So your client paid an average of $20,000 for properties now worth over $500,000 each? The market changed, Your Honor. That's not fraud. That's real estate investment. It is, if the grantor didn't understand they were transferring ownership. Judge Brennan looked at Gerald directly. "Mr. Ashford, did you or did you not represent to Mrs. Rahman that this was a refinance?" Gerald leaned forward. "I may have used that term. Yes or no? I explained it was accessing equity. Yes or no?" "Yes. But it wasn't a refinance. It was a deed transfer." Silence. "TRO granted," Judge Brennan said. "All property sales blocked pending full hearing. Preliminary injunction hearing set for May 2nd. Mr. Ashford, I'm also ordering you to produce all contracts, correspondence, and financial records related to these transactions. Discovery deadline is April 25th. She banged the gavel. At 11:03 a.m., as we were leaving the courthouse, federal agents entered Ashford Development Headquarters with search warrants. At 11:47 a.m., my phone rang. Agent Torres. "We're in," she said. "We've got boxes of documents, hard drives, email servers. Charlie, this is bigger than we thought. We found communications about 23 properties, not 16. And we found email chains between Gerald and his notary about forging documents." "How long until charges?" "Grand jury will hear the case in June. If they indict, and they will, Arrests happen shortly after. That afternoon, the Boston Globe got wind of the story. A reporter called me. Ms. Rahman, can you confirm you filed a class action lawsuit against Ashford Development for deed fraud? It's public record, I said. Yes. Can I speak with your mother? No, but I can provide a statement. I gave them the basics, kept it factual. 16 families, $8.2 million, life estate scam, FBI investigation. The story ran Tuesday morning. Boston developer accused of targeting immigrant families in deed fraud scheme. By Tuesday afternoon, Victoria had called me 32 times. I answered the 33rd. Charlie, please, you have to drop this lawsuit. No, my father's company is falling apart. The board is demanding his resignation. Our stock dropped 40%. Do you know what you're doing? I'm taking back what he stole. It was business, legal business. Victoria, your father forged notary documents. He lied to elderly immigrants. He stole homes worth millions and paid them thousands. That's not business. That's crime. Please, I'm begging you. Ben knew, I said. For over 2 years. He let your mother humiliate our mother at your wedding because he wanted the VP job. Where is Ben, Victoria? Where's my brother? She was crying now. He's at home. He can't face... Charlie, he made a mistake. People make mistakes. No, I said. Ben made a choice. So did your family. And now you get to live with it. I hung up. Wednesday, the other calls started. Board members, investors, media requests. Thursday, the Ashford Development Board held an emergency meeting. Gerald was placed on administrative leave. Victoria was reassigned to a non-operational role pending investigation. Friday, 3 major investors pulled funding from Ashford's development projects. 2 city contracts were suspended pending review. Saturday morning, 1 week after the wedding, Ben finally called me. I answered. Charlie. His voice was rough. Can we talk? Talk. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I was wrong. I should have told Mom. You should have protected her, Ben. That's what you should have done. I know. God, I know. Victoria's filing for divorce. I lost the job. I lost everything. You didn't lose everything, Ben. You threw it away. Mom worked 3 jobs so you could go to college. She sacrificed everything for you. And when she needed you to stand up for her, you chose money. I was scared, he said. I was scared of losing my life, my future. And Mom, what about her future? What about the house Dad died for? Silence on the line. Is she okay? Ben asked finally. No, but she will be. Can I see her? I don't know. That's up to her. I heard him crying. Part of me wanted to comfort him. He was my brother. But a bigger part remembered Mom standing in that reception hall, name tag pinned to her chest, tears in her eyes while Ben looked away. Ben, I said, I hope you figure out who you want to be, but right now, stay away from us. I hung up. The legal battle took 8 months. In June, the federal grand jury indicted Gerald Ashford on 12 counts of wire fraud, 8 counts of mail fraud, 6 counts of elder abuse, and 3 counts of RICO violations. Maximum sentence, 240 years. Realistically, if convicted, he'd get 15 to 20. The criminal trial was scheduled for March 2027, but the civil case moved faster. In August, Gerald's attorneys approached us with a settlement offer. $200,000 per family, plus deed rescission and return of all properties, in exchange for release of all civil claims. I took the offer to my mother and the other families. What do you think? Mom asked. I think we can get more at trial, but trial takes time, years maybe. Settlement means you get your house back now. And the other families? Same choice. Most of them want the settlement. They want their homes back. Mom thought for a moment. Your father always said, justice delayed is justice denied. I want my house back. I want to move forward. We accepted the settlement. With part of the money, she paid off the full scholarship fund and still had enough left to help 2 other elderly victims in our group cover overdue medical bills. She began attending a support group for elder fraud survivors at the local senior center. For the first time in nearly 2 decades, I saw my mother walk with her shoulders back and her head held high. Not because of the money, but because someone had finally believed her and made it right. On September 12, 2026, Joyce Rahman became the legal owner of 127 Lexington Street once again. The settlement also included an additional provision I'd negotiated: full accounting of all money Gerald had extracted from the properties through tax benefits, depreciation, and equity appreciation. He was ordered to pay each family their proportional share. For Mom, that meant an additional $342,000. Total recovery, $542,000 plus the house, now appraised at $748,000. She cried when I told her. "Your father's promise," she said. We kept it. In October, Mom sold the house on Lexington Street. She didn't want to stay there anymore. Too many ghosts. She bought a smaller place in Quincy, closer to the beach. 2 bedrooms, manageable. With the remaining money, she did something I didn't expect. She established a scholarship fund, the James Rahman Memorial Scholarship for Children of Single Parents. $250,000 initial funding. Annual awards of $5,000 to local students. "Your father worked himself to death so we could have a future," she said. "I want other kids to have that chance, without the cost." The first scholarship was awarded in January 2027. 2 years later, April 2028. I was at Mom's house in Quincy. Sunday dinner. Just the 2 of us. She'd made rice and lentils, the same meal from 1,000 childhood nights. "Charlie, honey, I got something in the mail today." She handed me an envelope. Inside was a letter, handwritten, from Ben. "Dear Mom, I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I know what I did was unforgivable. But I'm writing because I want you to know I understand now. I'm working at a union warehouse in Everett. Loading docks. Same kind of work Dad did. I wanted to understand what he went through. The double shifts, the physical exhaustion, coming home and still finding the energy to be a father. I think about him every day. I think about you, working 3 jobs, keeping the house, keeping us fed and safe. And I think about how I betrayed all of that for a job title and a salary. Victoria and I divorced 8 months ago. I don't blame her. I don't blame anyone but myself. I'm not asking to come back into your life. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I just wanted you to know, I'm trying to become the son you and Dad deserved. I'm trying to learn what Dad already knew. That character isn't about money or status. It's about who you protect when it costs you something. I'm sorry, Mom. I'll spend the rest of my life being sorry. I love you. Ben." Mom folded the letter carefully. "What do you think?" "What do you think?" I asked. She was quiet for a long time. I think he's learning. I think it's a start." "Are you going to see him?" "Maybe. Eventually, when I'm ready." She looked at me. "Are you?" I thought about it. About the brother who'd looked away when Mom needed him. About the brother who was trying to find his way back. "I don't know," I said honestly. "Maybe. But not yet." "That's okay," Mom said. "Healing takes time." We ate dinner, talked about her week, my work, the scholarship recipients. After dinner, she showed me something hanging in her kitchen, a small frame. Inside was the old name tag from the wedding. Joyce Rahman, former household staff tenant, Ashford Property, number 47. Next to it, she'd hung a new document, the deed to her house in Quincy. Owner, Joyce Rahman. "Why did you keep it?" I asked, pointing to the name tag. To remember, she said. To remember what they thought I was. And to remember what I actually am. What's that? She smiled. A woman who kept a promise. A mother who raised good children. A person who survived. She touched my face. Your father would be proud of you, Charlie. He'd be proud of both of us, Mom. Later, as I was leaving, she walked me to the door. The evening sun was setting over Quincy Bay, painting everything gold. Charlie, she said, I want to tell you something. That day at the wedding, when you took my hand and said we were going home, that was the moment I knew everything would be okay. Because I had you. I hugged her. I'll always have your back, Mom. I know. I drove home thinking about justice, about how it's not just about winning or revenge, it's about restoring dignity. It's about making sure the people who hurt others face real consequences. It's about protecting the next victim. Gerald Ashford was convicted in March 2027. Sentenced to 18 years in federal prison. Ashford Development was dissolved. The building in the Seaport District was sold to pay restitution. Linda Ashford moved to Connecticut. I heard she tells people her husband was a brilliant businessman wrongly persecuted. Victoria moved to New York. Works in finance now. Different last name. And Ben? I don't know exactly where he is or what he's doing. But I hope he's learning. I hope he's finding his way back to the person Mom and Dad raised him to be. As for me, I'm still at legal aid. Still fighting for families who don't speak the language of power. Still translating the fine print. Still standing at kitchen tables, explaining to people that yes, they have rights, and yes, I'll help them fight. Because I learned something from my mother. I learned that real strength isn't about money or status or education. It's about standing up when it costs you something. It's about keeping promises when no one would blame you for breaking them. It's about knowing your worth, even when someone pins a name tag to your chest and calls you a tenant. My name is Charlie Rahman. I'm 33 years old, and I'm my mother's daughter. If you've ever stood up for someone when everyone else looked away, drop a comment. I read everyone. And if this story meant something to you, if you've ever watched someone you love be disrespected and felt that same cold fury, share it. Because somewhere out there, someone needs to hear it. Someone needs to know they're not alone. Someone needs to know that stolen houses can be taken back. And dignity? Dignity can never be stolen at all.